A lot has happened in the last year around the world. There have been more elections in 2024 than potentially any other year in human history, with around half of the world's population voting in national elections. And the results globally have been an overwhelming rejection of the status quo, with 2024 seeing record numbers of incumbent governments either being removed from office or substantially weakened by elections. Elections were held in the United States, UK, France, India, South Korea, Mexico, South Africa, and nearly 60 other countries all around the world. In the United States, the Democrats lost to Donald Trump, with the former president winning a higher vote share than he got in 2016 and 2020. In the United Kingdom, the Conservative Party was wiped out after 14 years in power and received its lowest vote share since the 1800s. In France, Macron's centrist party came third in national elections that he called, and in the European Union's elections, incumbent and establishment parties suffered greatly across the continent, from Germany to Spain and even in countries like Hungary. And this trend hasn't just affected the West. In India, the Hindu nationalist BJP lost its majority in parliament following 10 years in government, and the ANC, or African National Congress, in South Africa saw its lowest vote share since the end of apartheid. The only major exception to this was in Mexico, where the left wing presidential candidate backed by the incumbent party increased their vote share. Since 2020, a Harvard study found that 75% of governments had been removed by the populations, and it's no coincidence that also during this time, living standards, in terms of real wage, have also been in sharp decline. And 2024, much like the last few years, have also been characterized by global economic decline and growing public dissatisfaction. This is a continuation of a trend that really started back in 2008 following the global financial crash and has now been exacerbated by governments around the world's disastrous responses to COVID-19. And in a sense, the election results of 2024 are a culmination of the last few years. Outside of election results, there have not been much in the way of significant domestic policy change around the world, despite the international wave of public dissatisfaction. In most countries where incumbent governments lost support, they either hung on to power, despite being in some cases hated, like in France, or they were just replaced by other parties that have fundamentally governed in the same way, like in the United Kingdom. The biggest impact of these elections globally has been the effect of Donald Trump's victory on the Ukraine war. The conflict has largely remained frozen in 2014, with both sides making only minor gains on the battlefield, but the West's posturing on the war drastically shifted when Trump won the presidential election. In anticipation of a Trump administration potentially changing America's position in Ukraine, by pushing for negotiations instead of the Biden administration's position of unconditional support for Ukraine, made many European leaders and most of the European press switch from endorsing continued supply of arms to Ukraine unconditionally to support for a negotiated settlement, making a potential end to the war in 2025 more possible, with German President Olaf Scholz having a phone call with Putin for the first time since the beginning of the Ukraine war just after Trump's victory. The biggest news this year, however, is what's happened in the Middle East. The president and dictator of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, was toppled by Islamist rebels backed by Turkey, and led by a man who was formerly the head of al-Qaeda in Syria. This has brought to an end, for now, the Syrian civil war and over 60 years of dictatorial rule of Syria by Bashar al-Assad and his father before him, which started in 1971. Also in the Middle East, Israel has invaded both southern Lebanon and Syria in the last 6 months. Its invasion of Lebanon dealt a significant blow to Hezbollah's capacity, Hezbollah being the Iranian-backed Lebanese militia and political party that's been at war with Israel since the 7th of October in 2023. While in Syria, Israel proceeded to invade and occupy land near its border in the Golan Heights and destroyed Syria's key military assets, including its small navy, following the fall of Assad. Also in the Middle East, in 2024, Israel has assassinated the leaders of both Hezbollah and Hamas, And Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has been charged with war crimes by the International Criminal Court for his country's war on the Gaza Strip. Other notable big developments around the world this year include the ascension of Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates into the BRICS alliance, the release of journalist Julian Assange from prison in the UK, the South Korean president attempting a military coup, Spain beating England to win the Euros football tournament, and Russia holding another rigged election where Putin won a record 88% of the popular vote. Well, that's my rundown of the main political events of the year. I may have missed something, but I think I covered most events. I did only remember about the South Korean coup right at the end of doing my script, but I'm hoping I've not missed too much. I'm also hoping to post a 2024 recap video for Europe, the UK, and Scotland in the next few days, so look out for them if you're interested, and I shall see you later.